Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have just handed over to the President of the Security Council for this month an official letter from my government. And I asked His Kindness to circulate this letter as an official document of the United Nations. Let me read out for you the content of this letter. It's an informal translation that was prepared by the Syrian delegation to the United Nations. So this is not an official translation, but it is an informal translation that might shed some light on the content of the letter. Upon instructions from my government, I wish to convey to you the following information. The competent Syrian authorities confirmed that they are seriously investigating the source of the fire which led to the death of the Turkish citizen and her children. Deepest condolences of the government of Syrian Arab Republic were presented to the families of the martyrs and to the friendly and brotherly people of Turkey. In cases of border incidents that happen between any two neighboring countries, states and governments should act wisely, rationally and responsibly, particularly given the special and delicate situation on the Syrian-Turkish borders, where there are undisciplined armed terrorist groups spreading on those borders which have different agendas and identities. Those groups pose a threat to the security of Syria, also to regional security of the countries of the region. The Syrian-Turkish borders are long borders and exploited in the smuggling of arms, ammunition, and armed terrorists who committed massacres in Syria, most recently of which the massacre in Aleppo committed by Al-Qaeda that claimed the lives of a number of civilian martyrs. Syria bases its behavior with neighboring countries to the rules of good neighborliness, and respect for national sovereignties of states. And it invites in return those states to respect the national sovereignty of Syria and to cooperate in border control and prevention of the infiltration of insurgents and terrorists, according to what Syria has always done. We also point out that at 7 o'clock in the evening of Wednesday, October 3rd, 2012, Turkish troops had launched artillery shells towards the south of the village of Tal Abyad in the Syrian territory and stopped at midnight. Turkish troops then resumed artillery shelling until 7 o'clock of Thursday morning, October 4th, 2012, injuring 2 Syrian army officers, while our forces practiced self-restraint and did not respond to this Turkish artillery shelling. The government of the Syrian Arab Republic calls for the need of cooperation from the Turkish government in borders control for the benefit of the two parties, within the framework of respect for national sovereignty and good neighborly relations. I would be grateful if this letter was distributed to members of the Security Council and issued as an official document of the Security Council. That was the content of the letter I have just handed over to the President of the Security Council. Moreover, I have also sent this morning to the President of the Security Council another official letter with regard the 4 suicide bombings that had struck Aleppo yesterday, meaning the same day the border incident took place between Turkey and Syria. The same day, almost at the same time, 4 suicide bombers detonated their explosives in Aleppo, killing scores of innocent civilians in the city of Aleppo. The Security Council, found itself incapable, once again, of issuing an official position condemning these terrorist attacks. And this is due, mainly speaking, to the behavior and the politicization by some permanent members in the Council who objected to issuing anything condemning these terrorist attacks, while Jabhat al-Nusra, which is, as you know, branch of Al-Qaeda, claimed, officially speaking, responsibility for these terrorist attacks. This is the 3rd time the same member states in the Council are preventing the Council from reacting to terrorist attacks that struck Syrian cities and scored hundreds of innocent civilian victims. So today I handed over another letter to the President of the Council, urging him to react to these suicide terrorist attacks that struck the city of Aleppo. The President of the Council expressed his deep sympathy with the innocent victims in Aleppo in his national capacity, and promised to share with the other member states of the Council immediately the content of my government's 2 letters, so that any official reaction from the Council with regard to the latest developments on the Turkish-Syrian border would incorporate also some kind of position from the Council with regard the terrorist attacks that struck Aleppo. I'm in your hands.
هل تقصدون من إجراء التحقيق أن هناك الاعتذار الذي قدمته سوريا إلى تركيا لا يعني بالإثبات أن هناك إثبات أن الجيش السوري هو الذي قصف تلك البلدة؟
لا، هذا الكلام غير دقيق بالمطلق. السلطات السورية تقوم بتحقيق دقيق لمعرفة مصدر إطلاق القذيفة التي سقطت في الجانب التركي وأدت إلى سقوط ضحايا. حتى الآن التحقيق لم ينتهي، التحقيق الرسمي لم ينتهي، والحكومة السورية على لسان السيد وزير الإعلام عبرت عن تعازيها للضحايا ولعائلة السيدة التي استشهدت في القصف وللشعب التركي، لكن هذا لم يكن اعتذارا، هذا كان تعبير عن التضامن مع المدنيين، التضامن مع هذه السيدة وأطفالها، والتعاطف مع هذه المأساة التي لحقت بالعائلة. التحقيق لم ينتهي بعد، السلطات السورية تقوم بما يجب أن تقوم به. نطالب الجانب التركي أيضا بالقيام بنفس الشيء، وهذا كله قائم على وقائع. يعني هناك مجموعات مسلحة تهاجم المواقع الحدودية السورية على الحدود السورية التركية، وهي كلها أمور تجري أمام ناظري حرس الحدود التركي والجيش التركي. فالقصة واضحة تماما للجانب التركي، وهم يعرفون تماما ماذا يجري على المعابر الحدودية وكيف تقوم بعض المجموعات المسلحة من حين لآخر بالهجوم على هذه المواقع الحدودية السورية على الحدود السورية التركية. وبعض هذه المجموعات المسلحة عندما يطاردها الجيش السوري تلجأ إلى داخل الأراضي التركية. فالصورة هكذا بكل وضوح. هذه هي المعطيات التي تحيط بالحادث الذي جرى أمس.
The Turkish Parliament passed, very quickly and not without some opposition, this law authorizing, explicitly authorizing military action outside of the country's borders. Do you have any comment on it? Do you think this is actually a step toward taking such action, or do you think it's just a heat of the moment response?
The Syrian government is keen interest in maintaining good neighborly relationship with Turkey. The Syrian government is keen interest of explaining to the Turkish people that the Turkish government's policies towards Syria are wrong and have been wrong since the beginning of the crisis. Syrian government is not seeking any escalation with any of its neighbors, including Turkey. And we have called during all the crises from the beginning on Turkey as well, Turkish government as well as on other governments neighboring Syria, of countries neighboring Syria. We have called on them to show responsibility and to help us combating terrorist acts and armed groups infiltrating through our borders with the neighboring countries. This call has been there for months so far, and we reiterate our call to the Turkish government to help us in controlling the border, preventing armed groups from infiltrating through these borders, and stopping the media coverage offered to some headquarters of these armed groups. Some of them are within the Turkish territory.
Mr. Ambassador, in the letter that you had just read to us, why was there no apology?
Because the investigation has not been finalized yet, number one, and second, because the approach should be comprehensive while assessing what happened. This is what I was trying to convey. The Syrian government, of course, sympathized with the martyr Turkish woman, as well as with her children, and we are asking the Turkish government also to show the same kind of sympathy towards our hundreds of civilians, innocent, who fall due to the suicide bombings of the terrorist groups. Some of them came through the Turkish-Syrian border. So things should be balanced. Neither the Syrian government nor the Turkish government should seek harming civilians or harming the bilateral good neighborhood relationship between the two countries. On our side, we are keen interest in safeguarding, maintaining good relationship with Turkey. And we call on the Turkish government to do the same with regard the security of the Syrian people. Thank you very much.
Can I say one more? Is it possible? Maybe you'll answer or not, but I know that Syria has said that Qatar was a major funder of rebel groups, and recently there's been the transition as head of the General Assembly from a gentleman from Qatar to Vuk Jeremic of Serbia. Can you say anything? Do you think that this will result in more meetings on Syria, less meetings on Syria? What did you think of the speeches that he gave during the general debate? What's Syria's view of this transition in leadership of the General Assembly?
Well, I think the former PGA harmed his personal reputation first, the credibility of his country's policies in the United Nations, by misusing his mandate and the very important podium of the General Assembly. I think that he tried to use his national to use his the national agenda of his country and to dictate this national agenda on the member states as a whole. And that was a big mistake, acknowledged even by the closest friends and allies of the former PGA. You may remember the procedurals and political mistakes he made towards the point of view of my country, as well as towards myself. In these wrongdoings, procedural and political wrongdoings, he crossed the line, and he wasn't a diplomat, and he didn't act responsibly. Let me remind you that in one of these meetings of the General Assembly, the former PGA stopped the translation one time, stopped recording the session, and this happened for the first time since 1945. No other PGA has done that before, except him. And he, on many occasions, manipulated the rules and procedures of the sessions and meetings of the General Assembly. The new PGA will be, by all means, different in his approach, in his analysis from the former PGA. I'm saying this because he is a real heavyweight, a troubleshooter, a professional diplomat. Then I guess that he will not fall in the same trap in which the former PGA had fallen. My minister met with the new PGA and they discussed together the best ways to help Syria, government and people, to achieve national dialogue and to implement the Kofi Annan 6 points plan, as well as other international instruments adopted by consensus with regard to the Syrian crisis. So we feel more objectivity, we feel more responsibility, we feel more genuinity on the part of the new PGA, and we are looking forward to working with him very closely. Thank you very much.